Don't allow him to have a 30-point, 10-assist game, 8 rebound, along with Anthony Davis playing like he did, and then D'Lo and the supporting cast continue to play like that. Like that says Lakers championship all over it.
Welcome to the CJ McCollum Show. Across from me, as always, Izzy Gutierrez. We got a special guest today, and I'm going to read a little bit about him to give you insight as to who we're speaking to. Two-time NBA All-Star, second-team All-NBA, NBA All-Rookie, second-team 2012, AP Honorable Mention All-American 2011, two-time first-team All-Pac-10 2010, 2011, second-team All-Pac-10 2009, two-time Pac-10 tournament MVP, 10 and 11, Pac-10 Freshman of the Year. Number 2 is retired in the rafters for the Washington Huskies. Without further ado, Isaiah Thomas, appreciate you joining the podcast.
Hey man, appreciate you having me. I've been waiting to get on the pod.
No, I'm excited to have you on, man. I think a lot of people didn't understand the impact you had on basketball until they watched today, right? You see guards under 6 foot, guards under 6'2", how impactful they are in the NBA in terms of shot creation, in terms of ability to create space. We talked about Jalen Brunson right before we started recording, a guy who's maybe 5'11" on his tiptoes. Right, getting into it. I want to take it back a little bit. What did you work on, in high school, in college, that translated to most in the NBA once you got there? Because I think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to create space at each level, right? High school, your crossover don't have to be as tight. College got to be a little bit tighter. To get to the league, it has to be super tight. But what did you work on that translated most in the NBA once you got there?
The thing I worked on the most was, first off, my jump shot. I was always a scorer growing up, but I was never like a knockdown shooter. And I knew for my jump from college to the pros, I would have to be able to shoot at a high clip being a small guard. So that was number one. But my biggest thing was finishing in the paint. Like I've always been good at finishing in the paint, but the transition from college to the pros, like my first few months in the league were so difficult for me because I always found ways how to finish in the paint. But now these guys are longer, bigger, jump higher. And it wasn't necessarily guys who was blocking my shot, but they were changing my shot. And that had a lot to do with not just in the paint, but even with my jump shot. It was getting to a point where they were affecting it just a little bit. So I had to work on things like, like your step back. I had to work on step backs. I had to work on hesitation moves just to get my defender slightly off balance so I can get a little bit of separation. And, that's something I work on to this day. And I think if you're a small guard, if you're an undersized guard, you got to have variety of moves to get you separation, not only to get to the cup, but most importantly, to get to your jump shot that frees everything else up. So that's something that, over the time of high school, college to the pros, something that I watched film on, something that I really emphasized on getting better at each and every year is trying to find ways to get my separation. So the longer, taller guys that could jump higher as well aren't affecting anything I have to do on the offensive end.
Isaiah, it seems like, regardless of position, the guys are getting taller and taller in this league. You got Victor Wembanyama coming in next year. For guys who still know how to do or can do what you can do, what's the best way to sort of differentiate yourself, right? Because unless you're in a bunch of practices, you can't really see how I can finish necessarily in traffic. How do you do that? How do you differentiate yourself to say, hey, I might be one of the small guys, but I can still survive in that league?
I think you got to play a lot. Like you have to, nowadays, even the youth, everybody drills a lot. Everybody's doing drill work. The cones don't move. So you're going to have to try these moves and these things that not necessarily you can work on in a workout, but you can try them against any type of talent. Long as they're long, tall, they can jump out the gym a little bit. I think that's what helped me in terms of my offseason preparation, no matter if it was high school, college, or the pros. I went out and played 5-on-5. I played a lot of 5-on-5 and just tried things that can ultimately work when I'm playing against pro level players. So back home in Seattle, we got a lot of guys that, played in the NBA, play overseas. So we're playing throughout each and every summer. And I think that was the point of emphasis for me was I got to try these moves on guys that are longer, taller, bigger than me and see if they work. And if they do, let me work on them in my drill work to perfect them and get even better at them and be even more efficient at those once the game time comes.
You talked about the importance of playing pickup, right? There's been conversations about load management. There's been conversations about a lot of stuff. And I think one of the issues that we're seeing now is that guys aren't playing enough in the summer or they're playing too much. It's one or the other that I've seen continuing to happen. What changes do you think you strategically made over the course of your career from a load management standpoint, if you will, in terms of your training? Like, I think one of the things that I've done with my body now is I used to take 5 days off when the season ends. Now I take 2 weeks off. So it's like figuring out what's the period in which you can allow your body to decompress before you slowly ramp back up to the 2 days and the 3 days. So how have you kind of shifted that first part? And the second part is, how's your body feeling now after the training and rest that you've properly given it?
Yeah, I think to answer your first question, early on when I was in the league, it was like the off season, like you said, it was maybe a couple of days off and I was getting right back to it. And then as you get older, you understand your body a little more. You understand what's needed, needs and wants to your body. And then you go that direction. I think, especially for me now, I played 11 years in the NBA. I'm 34 years old. I'm still trying to pursue that, to get on the NBA roster, you got to understand your body. You got to use your body. You got to take care of your body, but you got to understand it. I don't need to go out there and work out 7 times a week no more, 3 hours a day. I don't necessarily need to do that. Like now I can work out maybe 5 days a week and go a couple of them days out of the week, go 2 a days. Like, so as you get older, you want to work smarter, not harder. And that's what I realized as I got, more years in the league. Like, I don't got to make 500 shots every day. But when I go in there and make 300, they got to be very efficient. They got to make up for the 200 that I didn't make. So, you just got to learn your body, learn what you need to get better at. And I think as we get older, as guys that's been in the league get older, you figure out things that you need to just work on, and then you work on that and you take care of business on that end. Other than that, it's like everything's a little extra. So don't play 5 days a week, but also you need to get up and down a couple days a week. I think that's always smart to figure out what is needed with your body and your skill set.
There's so many people who love watching you play in the league, and you just mentioned, you're still pursuing that. Can you kind of take us through, if you're comfortable with it, just like what happened after the injury and kind of where you settled in and where you are now, just recovering from that and trying to get back in?
I got injured in 2017. So for 3 years after that, the next 3 seasons I played for, I think, the Lakers, Denver, Washington Wizards, and then I had a couple 10 days with a few other teams. And then I ended the last year's season with the Hornets. I didn't get fully healthy till 2020. When COVID hit, and it was a blessing in disguise for me, as everything got shut down, and it gave me the actual time I needed to get the correct surgery to fix my hip problem that I had. So that took me, when I got surgery in May 2020, it took me about 9 months to get fully healthy. So from that point forward, from 2021, whatever that was, 9 months later, I've been 100%. Like, I've been feeling like I did before I got injured. My body's been, in a great space. My mind, more so, my mind's been in a great space, and I've jumped that hurdle of, the mental side of things when you do get injured. Not necessarily like the physical side, but the mental side takes a toll on you. And I jumped that hurdle. So, like I said, I ended last year's season with the Hornets. I didn't get to play this year on a roster, but I was talking to teams throughout the whole season. Teams were checking on me. So, that gives me a little sign of, positivity, knowing that I'm still communicating with teams and there's still a chance. Like, I always believe in myself. And I just feel like, at some point, especially with this free agency this coming year, somebody's going to pull the trigger and give me a chance, whether, that be vet leadership or give me a chance to go out there and show that I can still play at a high level. I can do a lot of things to help an organization, but to answer your question, I'm 100% healthy. I feel like I did, before I got injured. and I'm still only 34 years old with, not having a lot of pounding on my body the last 3 or 4 years.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think looking at the league now, you talked about better leadership. You talked about, obviously, we all know you can still hoop. A lot of teams need someone that can still hoop, but can also speak to what they've done and allow them to kind of understand like what it takes to be a professional. I think we've seen that with a lot of teams across the league in terms of how young the league is getting, where guys coming in 19, 20 years old, guys coming in 2 semesters worth of school underneath their belt, and some of them are going abroad or to OTE and then coming right to the league. So I think the understanding of the importance of having veteran guys in the locker room who have been in the league for more than 6 years, more than 7 years, more than 8 years, I think is extremely important and something that needs to continue to happen to rosters around the league so that we avoid, some of the situations we're seeing with teams and players, but also so that they're able to have someone they can relate to, so they can still go practice with, go play with, go out to eat with, go out to have an adult beverage with, who's already done the things that you're trying to accomplish, which is really, really important.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, and it's somewhat of a lost art as the league goes younger, because I can only remember when I came in the league, if I didn't have Francisco Garcia or John Salmons telling me what to do and giving me game, like especially coming into a losing situation, I don't know where my career would have went. And for these young guys that are coming in 19, 20, like you said, they're going to the situations where their vet is 23 years old and he doesn't really know everything. So it's hard to learn from somebody that is trying to learn himself. So veterans are definitely needed in the league still, whether they get an opportunity to play still or not. I think they're needed in that locker room in terms of showing these young guys how to be professional each and every day. Them seeing a guy who's done it at a high level and can still do it with given the opportunity, and also somebody they can connect with. As you know, the age gap from a coach to a player is for most teams is a huge age gap. And these young guys can't go into them offices comfortable and connect with a guy that's 40, 50 years older than him. Like it's just hard for them to do and be comfortable and voice their opinions, rather them go to somebody in the locker room that's 12 years in the league, be like, man, can you help me with this? I'm dealing with this. I don't know how to, move forward with that. So I think there's a fine line between having vets and the league going young. The league needs the veteran players for sure.
It's funny you should say that, because it took me to a place where I was going to talk to you about OTE. So you dumped in broadcasting for Overtime Elite this year, and they've got a couple of players that are going to be drafted probably top 6 or 8, depending on what mock you're looking at. And it's a man and Ausar Thompson, right? And a part of the OTE experience is, learning the real life skills and all the media skills and everything else. So maybe they can sort of learn to relate to some of those, guys that you're talking to during interviews and stuff. But I'm just curious, because look, I watched a lot of basketball in my life, 23 years covering the sport now. And I feel like I know good basketball players when I see them. And am I crazy, or are the Thompsons something kind of special?
No, they're special for sure. Like you said, I've got to broadcast on the OT platform, and to see them so many times this year, to see how serious they take the game at their age. Like there's no messing around once they get in between those lines. And I haven't really, you see that every now and then from a younger guy, but like for them both to have their head on their shoulders, they're knowing their goal and they're chasing it and going for it. Like they're locked in. Every time I was in Atlanta for OTE and I worked out in the gym either before their games on a day off, like they were always in there. There was one particular time I walked in and they were both on a laptop watching film. Like I've never seen a 19-year-old do that, or 18, 19-year-old high schooler do those things. Like that was, when I look back at it, I was like, oh, they're professional athletes. Like they want it that bad, to see just how locked in they are. And then don't talk about their game. Like they're physically ready. They're defenders. They defend at a high level. They do a lot of things that kids at that age don't do. And I'm excited to see their future in the NBA. Like they're potential stars in the NBA for sure, on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching them defend. They were, I was hanging out with them at Game 3 of Celtics Hawks, and Ausar was the way we were sitting. It was like me and a man in one row, and Ausar right in front of me. And for like a quarter of the game, he was watching his own workout footage because they're, obviously getting ready for pre-draft, and he's just like working on, getting to a spot and rising up, and he's just watching it over and over again and criticizing himself and asking his brother questions. It's crazy how locked in they are. But I'm wondering, because you mentioned before about drilling versus playing, right? Nobody really knows whether these OTE players are going to develop or translate immediately to the league. Maybe it takes them longer, maybe it's shorter. What do you think about that and sort of how they are developed versus, let's say, college kids? Obviously you go into Washington.
Yeah. I think OT, if you're good enough, you should go, especially if your goal is to get to the NBA. They have all the resources for the pro level game. They play with the NBA ball. It's NBA rules. You're getting taught by, former NBA coaches, college coaches. It's like the opportunity of a lifetime if your goal is to go to the NBA. Like I told them when I first went there, like if I was good enough in high school, like that's somewhere I'm going, because it's giving you all the breaks down on the court, off the court. You're living on your own. You have your resources. Like you're becoming a professional athlete at that age. And I think it's a hell of an opportunity. And there's guys in that, in that platform that are taking full advantage of the opportunity. And there's NBA scouts every night that they play, every practice. Like it's definitely an opportunity that, like, I don't see around the United States. Like that's something that happens, when guys are coming up overseas. And I think it's a lane that guys should take serious. And especially if you got the potential to make the NBA. Like it's a perfect situation for sure.
I think after the Thompson twins sort of get into the league, people are just going to look at it a little closer, and a lot more eyes will be on it after seeing what they can do.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him. I've heard a lot of great stuff about him and seen him online. The athleticism obviously stands out right away, but you talked about it. If they can guard early, that's a key to being able to get minutes right away in this league. If you can play defense, that's the hardest part of the NBA. Offense is, generally speaking, the most talented guys figure that out: spacing, shooting, when to penetrate, when to cut. But if you can guard, then there's definitely a room for you.
Oh yeah, and they got action because they could guard multiple positions.
Yeah, which is important, especially with small ball fives and guys that used to play two playing the four now.
For sure.
I guarded some guys that played the two. Now they playing the four, and I'm looking like 10 years ago he was playing the two. This is crazy. It's crazy how it works.
Crazy.
But I wanted to discuss the playoffs, but before we get into the playoffs, I got a note here that I have to ask you about this, and I still haven't been able to make it yet, but we got to talk about your Zeke-End, your Isaiah Zeke-End, the weekend that you have, and kind of what that's about in terms of not only hooping, but the charitable contributions that go into that, and what that impact does for your community.
So I have a basketball tournament called the Zeke-End. We've done it. I think this would be the 8th year we've done it. It just brings the community together. It's something that is big in the community, the Tacoma, Seattle area. And it's fun. It's a 2014 tournament. It's for bragging rights in the city. All the NBA players from the city usually have a team in it, whether it be Paolo Banchero, DeJounte Murray, Jamal Crawford usually plays on my team. So it's a line of guys that always have their team. And then it's local guys that, didn't make the NBA that still love playing the game, that come and compete in the tournament. But also, the biggest thing for me is for the kids. As we don't have the Seattle Sonics no more, this gives kids in the community a chance to see NBA players, not just the local NBA players, but, friends of mine throughout the leagues that come to my city of Tacoma, Washington, and show love to the community. So it's a big weekend for the city. This year we're doing it August 5th and 6th. We have a few events around it. It's not confirmed yet, but I'll always be bringing, the young stars of the NBA to the city so the kids can be able to interact with these guys, touch them, feel them, take pictures with them. And it's also a give back for the community and my foundation of the Thomas Family Giving Fund. All local Boys and Girls Clubs, around the city are welcome to come because I'm a Boys and Girls Club kid. So I always look, first and foremost to give back to Boys and Girls Clubs. So, those kids are always welcome and they're free. It's something that, it's something big for me just because it's an outlet to get off the streets for a weekend, to have somewhere to come and have good fellowship and have good, vibes and positive energy. And, the city is always looking forward to that weekend. We got to have you out one weekend, even if you're not playing, just to, for them kids to see you, take pictures. I see they seen CJ
Oh, you
McCollum
mean
in the
CJ?
city. So,
Oh, okay, not me. Sorry.
nah, you can come out too. I know
No,
some
I'm
kids
kidding.
know you as well.
I was about to ask you, you get the professor out there? Is he from the Northwest?
Now, he's from the Northwest, but I need him to come out there.
Okay.
He's a
Yeah,
celebrity out
he's
here.
a fan
He's from the
favorite.
Oregon area.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, that's dope, man. I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that because I know that's something that I've seen, and I always check out the clips on Instagram and see the highlights of all the talent out there. And I think Mike James has played it a few times too.
Ooh, Mike James, yeah, he's a celebrity in that for sure. The people come to see Mike James.
He be getting to
Wait,
it,
which
man.
Mike James is that? Because there's a couple.
Mike James that plays for Monaco right now.
Oh, okay. Not the one I was thinking of. I think the Mike James
Yeah.
I'm thinking of is in his 40s by now.
Yeah, no, this is younger Mike James.
He could come out and hoop too if he wants to. Mike James.
Yeah. This Mike James
The
played in
older
Brooklyn.
one.
Playoffs. I know I'm in New York right now as we record this. I normally say my location. I went to the Knicks Heat game, game 2.
You're dressed like a New Yorker today. Black hoodie with the black beanie.
I packed all sweats, man. I'm out here. I got my cast off, so I'm in all sweats every day, except for I'll do TV this week and I'll be in a suit. But other than that, I'm in all sweats. The Garden was rocking, man. I hadn't been in the Garden. I haven't gone to a game in the Garden besides playing in it ever. Let's just say that. And I have never seen a playoff game in the Garden. I've only seen playoff games in Golden State, in Cleveland, in Boston, and somewhere else. So I've seen those types of atmosphere, obviously finals and conference finals. But to see a round 2, game 2, it was rocking. And I think this is a good series. That's an underrated series. Obviously, there's a lot of injuries and stuff. But I want to talk about Jalen Brunson. Under 6 foot, great midi, great story in terms of, how he went to Villanova, multiple chips with Josh Hart, becomes teammates with Josh Hart again, plays with Luka for a while, gets to learn from Luka, play alongside Luka, then kind of figure out how his game is going to go to the next level. Luka gets hurt, gets to kind of show out, right? 40-baller 2 in the playoffs. Dallas offers him a deal. I think he ends up declining it, and then they're not able to come to terms. He signs in New York on what people say is an outrageous deal, right? $104 million over 4 years, I believe. And now it's looking like a bargain. He's leading. He's winning. He's hitting big shots down the stretch, and he's under 6 foot. While he does all of this, it makes the game look easy. I think this is an important factor here. Skills matter, and I think a lot of kids think you got to be athletic, you got to be tall. No, you need to work on your game. You need to have good footwork. You need to have a solid understanding of fundamentals, be able to hit a pull-up, make your free throws, be able to hit a floater because you can't dunk on everybody, and you got to be able to shoot, catch, and shoot threes. And I think this is a guy who's a 3-level scorer at 5'11", who was top 5 in the NBA in paint percentage points in terms of like what he shoots in that, like, I don't know, it's 4 to 8 feet, which is basically like the floater, but he shoots it as a jumper because it's like 7 feet away. And he has an elite post game. And they're doing all of this without having Julius Randle in game 1. And Miami's doing all of this in terms of maybe probably should have won game 2, if I'm being honest, without Jimmy and without Hero. This is a crazy series. Like, what are you guys' thoughts on this series so far? And then we can get into Jalen Brunson because
I got so many thoughts, but IT's got to go first.
My thoughts, it's one of them old school series, I think, being played. Very physical. It's just like they're 2 really good, well-coached teams that don't always need their stars to win. And that says a lot about how coached they are, how much they believe in each other, next man up mentality. And I feel like those 2 teams are destined for a 7-game series. Like it just seems like, because nobody's the favorite in any game. Like you would think the Knicks would have been the favorite last game without Jimmy Butler. But it was like you said, the Heat had that game. Like it seemed like they should have won that game, but due to Brunson, Julius Randle, the New York Knicks energy in the Garden, like they snuck one out of there, which was huge for them to go to Miami tied 1-1. So, it's going to be a good series. I got it going 7, though. I got it going 7.
All right, let me start here because when I close my eyes and listen to you talk about Jalen Brunson, even though I don't like see the game when I watch them, I hear prime Tim Hardaway. Like you talk about, can pull up from the outside, the mid-range where he kind of looks like a jumper. It's like a push shot or whatever, even though it's a shorty, the post-up game, the smart decision-making. I'm like, it's kind of like a lefty Tim Hardaway, maybe not all the wiggles and the fast, in the fast break with the crossover and stuff, but that's pretty high praise, especially for me coming from a Heat guy. But I like that you're saying it's going to go 7. I think it's Heat in 5. I think the Knicks probably a little bit demoralized after that game. I'm not going to really harp on, because this is what losers do. I'm not going to harp on the fact that the refs should have let that Gabe Vincent basket go and then review it to see if it was a 24-second violation, because it clearly hit the rim, and that was turning a 3-point game into a 1-point game. But I'm not going to get into that, or the fact that Scott Foster's 6-0 against the Heat this year in the regular season. Not going to get into that. I just want to say that I feel like it's crazy how these teams, like you mentioned Tibbs and how well they're coached, but you're right. It doesn't matter who has to do it. It could be Hard. It could be RJ Barrett. It could be, Julius Randle on one game. And then the part that I just didn't see coming is the Heat being able to do that without Jimmy, given everything that he has done for them. But to me, what that tells me is one of the things that he has done for that team, which goes unnoticed or unsaid, is instill confidence in these guys. Because if I'm, Max Strus or Duncan Robinson or Bam, even, who's always being asked to do more and more and more, like if I didn't have Jimmy's backing, I would probably wet myself out there. I'd probably be like, it's not really my spot. We're missing Jimmy. Let's just get this game over with. And so I think, I don't know, you guys tell me, from a playoff series game to the next, does that momentum carry over? Because the Knicks, I would imagine if the Heat go on a little bit of a run, the Knicks got to be thinking, man, like we had a chance and we blew it in that game 1, and now they got Jimmy back, and we might be screwed.
This is what I think. I think you're right about the Heat probably winning this series because of how well they've competed and show that they can compete without Jimmy. Like the fact that, like you said before, they could rely on Vincent, Strus, Martin. Martin had a great game the other night. Makes big plays, plays defense, does all the little things, like an ideal role player, can catch and shoot. You got Cody Zeller, who comes in and just bangs, gives you great minutes. Kyle's coming off the bench, playmaking, making the right plays defensively, big shot maker, big shot taker if you need him down the stretch. And you got Duncan Robinson, who didn't play for more than half of the season, shoots 100% basically, true shooting percentage in round 1, and comes in and gets up 7 to 10 3-point attempts a game at a high clip. Like, they just get it done. Spo coaches really well. He mixes in zone. He mixes in different matchup zones. Bam Adebayo, he's going to do what he does. Like, I think if you look at the matchup right now, it has to be leaning towards the Heat. With the split going back home, it's not a series until you went on the road. Miami went and won game 1 on the road, and they showed that they probably should have won game 2, and it took a Herculean effort, right? Jalen had to get 30. RJ basically had 16 in the first quarter. I think he had 20 in the first half or 22 in the first half. Like, it took their big 3 to basically all get, call it 26 on average between the 3 of them, and they win by 6 at home in basically what was a must win. So I think it goes back to Miami. Jimmy gets 6 days in between games because he took off already. So they win game 3. I think they win game 4, lose game 5. So I would say Miami in 6, but that's basically 5 because they should have won game 2 as well. But I think I say all this to say I could be wrong, just like I was wrong about the Suns in Denver. I thought there's no way they go down 0-2, and they did. So that's my spiel.
Well, I got it 7. You got it 6.
Who you got in 7 though? Who you have in 7?
I'm gonna go with the Heat.
Okay. So that means
I kind of piggybacking on what you're saying about the Knicks played so well and they still snuck a win out. Like, that's tough. And that's like bulletin board things you write down. Like, when you lost game 2, you're like, we didn't have Jimmy Butler. We don't have Hero either that we keep forgetting about. And we still had an opportunity to win game 2 on the road. So I got the Heat in 7.
No Victor either.
Oh, no Victor either.
No Victor. Could you imagine a game 7 in the Garden to go to the conference finals?
That's how you know you're a real celebrity. What seats you get at a game 7
What
in the
seat do you
playoffs
get
in
at
the
the game
Garden?
7 in the Garden
What?
for a chance to
That's
go to
the
the
A
conference
list, B
finals?
list. That gives you the list of who's on that front row on the game 7.
That's wild. Going from east to west. I know we all watched the Lakers game. This is being recorded on Wednesday, so it was last night. Anthony Davis gets a lot of criticism, man. A lot of people talk about AD. Oh, he's this, he's that. He's getting hurt. He's inconsistent, whatever. He got to be more aggressive, got to be more assertive. What I seen last night and what I seen in that first round of series. That boy impacts the game on both sides of the ball. You could argue he's been the best player in the playoffs outside of Jimmy Butler. It's him in terms of impact defensively. He averaged about 5 blocks a game in the first round against the Memphis Grizzlies. Completely changed the game in the paint. Wasn't great offensively, but like what he did defensively was enough to win the series. And then he goes into the Bay and manhandles everyone, floaters, pull-ups, dunks, block shots. They basically front face guarded Steph, funneled him to AD and said, good luck scoring on AD. And then he went and got 30 and 20. I think that's the second time that's ever happened in playoff history. 30, 20. I think he had 5 blocks or something like that. How good is Anthony Davis, and why do we take him for granted? By we, I mean the media and fans.
Yeah. Anthony Davis is arguably, when he's done with his career, he's going to be arguably one of the best bigs ever. Like, he has no weakness, and I think his injuries and how he gets injured is what people, like, the downfall of how good he is. And I think that more so for the media than his peers. Like, everybody understands how good Anthony Davis is. And he has shown this playoffs and reminded people how dominant he could be each and every night. And I think the biggest thing that helped him, especially with this season, is Bron being out towards the end of the year. And it gave like a reminder maybe to himself that, yeah, this can be my team. And we're going to go as far as I take them. And I think he has that mindset going into each and every game. And it's showing. Like, last night, he was unguardable. He did everything. Like, he probably slowed down just a little bit in the third quarter. But other than that, it was like a complete game. And that's what the world is expecting each and every night from him. Even if it's impossible to get that with him being hurt every now and then. The world wants 30 and 20 and 5 from him because he's that good.
Yeah. To me, the crazy part about Anthony Davis last night was the variety with which he was giving it to you. It wasn't like they were just giving it to him in the mid or high post and he was just going to work. A lot of it was on the move, and that's the thing about him. He can do the slow post up, the quick catch and, jump shot or push shot or whatever. He can give you a couple pivots and do all that. And so it's a nightmare to defend because even if you're the Warriors and have that level of defensive game plan against him, he'll just give it to you a different way, or LeBron will set him up differently. But I think the thing with him, and the reason, I'll speak for the media myself here, is he gets the hard times, not because of the fact that he can play. The fact that he can play this good is why people give him a hard time, is because he's just not available as often. And that's just one of those things you don't know how to blame him for. Can you blame him for injuries? No, but I do know this. Like, there's that feeling is always there. Like, he went down in the last series. I forget which game it was early in the series. And Dennis Schroeder basically went over there and told him to get up. You know what I mean? It was one of those, like, giving him his hand, but he's like, come on, you're fine. Come on. And it was one of those, like, all right, things might hurt, but you just play through them. And nobody knows what he's feeling. Nobody knows what he's playing through. So it's hard to criticize. And that's why I think people get on it. It's just like, you can criticize him for not showing up, but then you criticize the critics because they don't know what he's going through. And so what we want to see is this. We just want to see it all play out and let it be, like you said, him be one of the best big men of all time. And I think if this remains, this level of play and he remains healthy, he's going to go down as such. But I do want to, you mentioned mindset and his mindset. I want to talk about Jordan Poole's mindset. You're down 3 there and you've got, he's hit 6 threes in this game so far. You're down 3. Steph gets double to get the ball out of his hands. Still plenty of time on the clock, but you take effectively a logo 3 for the tie. Did you want to punch him in the face? No. I won't ask it that way. What did you think of the shot, IT?
Obviously Jordan Poole is a great shooter. He's probably hit a lot of those shots in his young career. But for me, I would have probably stepped in just a tad bit and tried to get a little closer shot. Like, I'm not saying it's a horrible shot and he's not capable of making it, but like, let Curry shoot that one and then we live with it. Like, that was a tough shot for me to live with, and I'm not even on the team. Like, he could have stepped in, and like you said, there was 10, 11 seconds left. Like, it wasn't like it was a buzzer beater and you needed to take that shot. So I would think he would take that back as well. But, you know, you live and you learn. It was an open shot. It just was a little too far for me.
CJ, you heard Tyrese Halliburton say he would take that shot. Would you?
Would I? I've never seen a shot I don't like. So I'm not arguing about the fact that he shot it. Similar to what IT is saying. Like, I fell asleep on the game. First of all, I thought the game was over. I'm going to go on record now saying that if the Lakers continue to play like this, there's no way they lose. By lose, I mean, like, they're going to the finals and they're probably going to win a championship if they play like this, which is hard to do. But I fell asleep. I thought the game was over. I was like, okay, like, AD's dominating. Steph's not in rhythm. Clay's not really in rhythm. Poole's playing well, but like, they not getting stops. They ain't got no answers. D'Lo's getting off. Bron is just being aggressive, not really efficient like he normally is, but he being aggressive. They're not losing this game. And when I woke up and seen that, first of all, when I seen that Poole shot it, I thought to myself, well, how do you get the ball? Because I know the ball would be in Steph's hands if they came back. Steph got double teamed. He got trapped at half court. Not Poole's fault. But it is his fault that he get close to the line. I say this all the time to some of my teammates. Trey Murphy, for example, he shoots threes from very far out, and I watch him practice it, so I don't mind. But if you have a chance to get closer to the line, why not get closer? Because percentage-wise, your percentage goes up as you get closer to the basket, unless you're, you don't know, Trae Young or Steph Curry, basically, and Dame. They shoot like probably a little higher from out further because of the value. But I didn't mind the shot at all because Steph was trapped and Clay was getting denied in the corner. Clay wasn't getting that ball. So he had to take the shot or get fouled or shoot a two or whatever. Like, he had to make a decision, but I don't think he should have shot it from that far out. And I think that's a sign of understanding spacing, understanding timing and score, but also understanding that, like, if you're going to take this shot, we don't care if you make or miss, but be on the line or close to the line if nobody's guarding you. Like, if you have to shoot a three from 32 feet, then cool, but you didn't have to. You chose to. And I think that's why the internet reacted the way they did, because it almost seemed like he chose to do that, and he thought it was good by how he reacted when he shot it.
Sure.
He backing up. He thought for sure this is my seventh three. I didn't play as well as I liked to in the first series. Like, I'm getting it back tonight.
And it's crazy too, because throughout that game, even more so in the first half than the second half, but I remember moments where I was just like, man, that was a good look where Jordan Poole found Steph, and he basically stopped the offense, not stopped the offense, but like purposely stopped his offense, waited for everything to develop, and then found Steph. And I was like, that's the Jordan Poole, you know, that you can't be mad at, right? He might make a defensive mistake here or there, but he's playing smart, getting his and finding Steph. And then at the end, he does that. And all that is kind of crazy, because like, when I think of where, just when the playoffs started, you would have asked me who the favorites were. I think in order, I said Celtics, I had them to win it all. Bucks, and then Suns were my top three. You ask me today, it's crazy just based on how they're playing. I go Lakers, Nuggets, Sixers. And Lakers and Nuggets. Sixers would have been up there, I think, regardless. They're probably my fourth team before the playoffs. But right now, the Lakers and Nuggets being up there, pretty shocking. Like, CJ, you mentioned it, that the Lakers look so good right now. Like, is anybody, like, favored over them when you got AD healthy and LeBron just kind of, you know, orchestrating and the defense playing the way it is?
No, not at all. Like CJ said, if they can continue to play as close as possible to that, that's like a championship team. Like, that's what they probably envision starting training camp. Like that, like how they play. And LeBron, like, efficient wise, like, he wasn't even that, you know, dominant last game. So, like, don't allow him to have a 30-point, 10-assist game, 8 rebound, along with Anthony Davis playing like he did, and then D'Lo and the supporting cast continue to play like that. Like, that says Lakers championship all over it. And to piggyback what you said, I definitely didn't have the Lakers going far in the playoffs at all. Like, but seeing how they played yesterday, if they could play close to that, they can control a lot of things in this year's playoffs for sure.
CJ, you think they're the favorites right now, or do you think it's more of a Nuggets Sixers type of look?
I think the favorites are Lakers and Nuggets. I think you're spot on.
Wow.
And if anybody watched those games, right? You watched how the Lakers won in the first round against the Grizzlies. Outside of the Dylan Brooks stuff that was going on, they had a different leading score in all 6 games. Like you talk about championship DNA, championships are won by star players and role players, but I think the role players are more important than the star players in the playoffs. Look at the Suns right now. Like, you expect AD to get 30, even though it's not realistic for him to get 30 and 20 every night. You expect him to shoot enough to get close at 30. You expect Bron to shoot enough to get close at 30. Same for Book and KD. But you don't expect Dennis Schroeder to get 19 off the bench. Like, you don't expect it to happen consistently. But when they can do that, when they can have a Austin Reeves game, right? When you can have a game where Rui gets off like he did in
Any
the
of
first
those guys
round,
can have a night, yeah.
that's a championship DNA, because you know you're going to get unexpected contributions that become expected. Like, you expect it to happen now. Look at the Warriors. They went 7 games mainly because Poole didn't have his best series. Like, if we're being honest, like,
Yeah.
Sacramento played great. They deserved to win. They had a Harrison Barnes missed 3 that probably changes the series. Shout out to my guy HB. They had a lot of chances to win, right? They had a elimination game on their home floor in Game 7. But Sabonis offensively wasn't great, which is what they probably needed. Monk was great, though. So Monk played so well, it didn't matter that Sabonis wasn't getting 25 a night. But the fact that Poole wasn't getting 20 a night, it hurt the Warriors, and it caused the series to last longer than it probably should have, if we're all being honest, because I say all this to say Lakers look really, really good. And if they play like this, they're going to the conference finals for sure, which is to be assumed. But Denver, the way Denver is playing, that Lakers, hypothetically, a Lakers-Denver conference finals, AD versus Joker.
I mean, what are we looking at, IT, with Jokic? Because people wanted to knock him just because they didn't want to give him a 3rd MVP. But now that that's out of the way, like, look what he just did. Like, what are we watching here with him?
We're watching greatness. We're watching somebody that you can't figure out. Like, it's hard to stop a player, especially a star player that is really looking to get others involved first and foremost. Then his last option is like, dang, I got to score. Okay, let me put this in the basket. Like, that's hard to guard. And then with his supporting cast, like, they really play the right way of basketball. Like, they're making it. Suns were my favorite to at least get past them. And they're making the Suns look not as special as they did, when they announced the trade that KD was coming to Phoenix. So Denver, they're well coached. It's hard to just key in on Joker because you have Jamal Murray, you have Michael Porter Jr., who can give you 25 to 30 on any given night. Then the supporting cast of KCP and Aaron Gordon, like, they give you a lot. And then Bruce Brown, like, they're giving you a lot from so many different players. And like CJ said with the Lakers, like, in the first round, there were 6 different players leading in scoring. That's like how the Denver Nuggets are made. Obviously, with Joker's going to lead them in scoring and assists for the most part. But everybody else, like, if they continue to play like that, they're so hard to defend because they're constantly moving. You're eyeing on a center that's really on the perimeter at the top of the key. Like, they put you in tough situations, and they're doing that to the Phoenix Suns right now in every possible way.
You mentioned an efficient game. I wanted to ask you if you remember this game. You were still on the Cavs. It was not your favorite season, obviously, coming after that Boston season. But LeBron in DC, it was like the 9th or 10th game of the season. The team had lost like 4 in a row. And he just went off for like 57, just a ridiculous, rebounds and assists. And according to like Game Score, it's his best game ever. You remember that game at all? Or all his games?
Yeah, I remember. Because I was still hurt. I was on the bench. I remember that game. I think he had one white shoe on, one black Nike shoe on. It was like one of the crazy shoes he had on. And that was like one of those games where he did it all in every possible way, dominating in the paint, hitting jumpers. I think he had like 10 assists that game too. Like, he controlled the whole game. And that's like, to piggyback what you're saying, like, I feel like that's how Joker is each and every night. Like, it's that hard to defend him and to to try to slow him down because he's really great at a lot of things. Like usually superstars and stars, you're like, let's limit him to 25 points. Let's try to slow him down with getting the amount of baskets. Like you're trying to slow him down on the boards. You're trying to slow him down not from getting 15 assists. You're trying to slow him down from getting 30 points. Like you got to pick your poison. And I feel like the Suns are like obviously they're going to make adjustments, but they're probably tripping right now. Like what do we do next? Like we can't
looking at
outscore
DeAndre
these guys.
Ayton like what are you
do
gonna
we do?
And I think the funniest part about all this is that I said the Suns would win this series, and I think a lot of people just assumed, and give Denver credit because they haven't gotten the credit they deserve at all. Like they're a number 1 seed and they're basically dogs in the minds of most people, outside of their fan base and outside of people that watch the Denver Nuggets consistently. They probably were dogs in this series, and they've gone out and just punched Phoenix right in the mouth from the beginning. And Izzy, I remember you asking me about Joker, and I said he's going to get his 30 and 10. But I said the issue would be everybody else. Like I know what Jamal Murray is capable of. I've played against him in the playoffs. I've seen it. But the issue would be how well did the role players play? Caldwell Pope shooting the ball well. Porter
Aaron
Jr.
Gordon's muscling up.
Gordon's shooting the ball well too, and he's not even a shooter. Like they're all
Right.
playing extremely confident. I think they understand what's at stake here. Like they really got a chance. And for the first time in a long time, I had a fan tell me I'm really engaged in watching the playoffs now because it's wide open.
Yeah,
it's wide open. Like the
Completely.
Sixers could mess around and get to the finals. Boston could get to the finals. Lakers could. Warriors could. Like it's wide open. And I think everybody as fans realize it. And I think players and organizations realize it too. Like a lot of teams got action, but right now I think it's the Lakers, Denver at the top of the West. And I think it's the Sixers and Boston in the East. But just think about it. Think about if the Heat continue to prolong their season, prolong it. And then Hero comes back, and all of a sudden you're healthy going into a potential finals. Like crazier things have happened, and you got an elite coach over there.
Yeah, and I'll leave it at this. We can wrap up, but you mentioned our take on the Nuggets, and there was somebody who tweeted at me that I should be fired for my lazy take on the Nuggets in last week's podcast, and it just made me laugh because I'm thinking of the possibility of like Norby Williamson calling me into his office and being like, "Man, it's been a good 11, 12 years, but you know." You had that one take on the Nuggets, and we're just going to have to let you go. that would be amazing. But CJ knows nobody even knows I'm on this podcast, so they won't hear anything.
You're good.
You're sick. You are sick. Yo, the funniest part is that last year, I said I went and watched Boston play. I was in CBA negotiation. I covered Game 3 in Boston. I think the Steph Curry game where Steph went off and had 40. They were down 2-1, Game 4, 2-1. And I said, Boston's going to win this series. And I told Dre, I was like, yeah, I just want you to know I went on TV and I said, Boston's going to win this series. Like, I ain't like, we're friends. Like, I want you to think I was talking about you behind your back. And he said, we'll talk about this later. And then, long story short, they went on to win the series. And he said, yeah, and they're going to be ringless just like you are forever or something like that. Like, he was joking. Like, he was joking. Like, you know, it was funny. And fans were like, this is what you get. You hate the Warriors. You hate all these teams. I'm like, no, I just watched the game and I pick a side. Like, I think this team's going to win. And when they don't win, like, it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to go against it. And I'm saying this now. Like, I thought Denver was going to lose this series. Now, I would be surprised if they lose this series, whether CP comes back or not, because he's going through that injury now. And their team dynamic is completely different when he's not in the game. Like, it's completely different. And without him, cancel Christmas.
Vacation.
Cancel Christmas, man. I appreciate you coming on the pod. Is there anything else that you want to talk about while we're on here? I know you got to go hoop soon.
Nah, I'm good. I appreciate y'all having me, man. I hear great things about the pod. I see all the things on social media, so I had to tap in with you guys. I appreciate you having me.
No problem, man. I appreciate you coming on. Good luck with everything. And one of these times I'm gonna get out there for sure. I'm in the midst of a wild summer this summer, but I'm gonna get out there. Mark my words.
Oh, you got to.
It might be late. It might be my mid to late 30s, but I'm gonna make it out there.
It's all good as long as you show face. You good.
And I'll never let people forget that how special a season that was with Boston. Like, that was historic, and that was.
Hey, I appreciate that. That always means a lot.
Yes, sir.